Hello my beautiful people. So something a little different for you this time. You guys are used to seeing me read the tarot for you. You are used to me talking about numerology. It's time for some astrology. We are stepping into eclipse season, and yes, you will see the whole internet and all of YouTube is awash and abuzz with all of the with all about this stuff. I've got my trusty notes here. The reason I'm doing these solar eclipse specials, and we'll be doing all of the eclipse specials, is because not only is it a different energy, I mean, we've had a little dip into it, but this is where it gets real. This is where it gets, intense, and where it gets serious. And because we're switched from the Leo Aquarius axis, which, trust me, I felt, because I am a Leo rising and an Aquarius sun. So I really felt those ones, and actually I can now, looking back on it, really see the benefit of it. At the time it felt like absolute fucking shite, if I'm completely honest with you, because I felt like a ping pong ball in the middle of a storm out at sea. That's just the truth of it. You know, there were moments that were really great that I could see the benefit of, but there were some moments that I was like, do you know what, I don't know how this is going to serve my greater good, but in hindsight, I can see how it worked. So there's a couple of things that I want to talk about before we go into the video itself, right? And I've got, my trusty notes here, because as many of you know, astrology, tarot I can do with my eyes closed, right? In fact, I probably could do it with my eyes closed, even though it's all about the symbols, right? But just from the feeling, I would be able to do that. Whereas astrology is such a bigger and broader subject, and I don't have nearly as many years under my belt in that field as I do with the tarot, with the cards and the symbols there. So I always have notes because I'm just not as practiced. I call myself a baby astrologer. A lot of people say, I think you're being too harsh on yourself, but whatever, it's not about that. So with that said, before we go into your personal, horoscope, eclipse scope, tarot scope, whatever you want to call it, right? Yes, there will be tarot. Come on, that's what I do, right? There's a few things that I want to clarify on. So you see this, I've drawn it out, and yes, it looks pretty, and it looks mysterious, and it's got the symbols on the wheel and all the rest of it, and we're all familiar with what a chart looks like. Well, 90% of people nowadays are familiar with what a chart looks like. The problem that this chart creates is that people tend to see this kind of thing, especially a big event like an eclipse, as just a flash in the pan. They kind of see it like a static moment. And while it is true that the specific moment of the eclipse will imprint your life with a specific type of energy, right? And that's really important to remember. So when you read somebody's birth chart, when you look at somebody's personal astrology, when you see a personal one of these for somebody, what you're actually looking at is a specific moment in time that is imprinted into their DNA, right? There's, all of the stars aligned in a certain way to give you a certain energy that was going to unfold. Astrology breathes, it moves. Human beings are not, we're multifaceted. We move, we breathe, we grow, we change, we evolve. Just like the moon, we are cyclic. We go through great, awesome periods, and we go through low, sort of not so awesome periods. And that's one of the things that you really need to understand. This isn't just an event that will happen on this day and then you can forget about it. It's kind of like a toolbox. Imagine it's like a gift that the universe gives you on a specific day and says, right, here you go, I'm going to give you this, and you get to unpack that over the next 3 to 6 months. It's never just a flash in the pan moment, and this is why people talk about the eclipses so much, and why people often say, well, this will happen, over the next 3 to 6 months, and sometimes even further beyond. Like I said, I can see a lot of the stuff that I'm doing and living and experiencing now in relation to the eclipses that we finished up in Aquarius and Leo. So it's really relevant stuff, but you need to understand it's a process, not an event, right? It's an unfolding of energy that is imprinted into you on the specific day. So pay attention to that day, because it may well have elements of what this energy is going to be like for you over the next 6 months, what it might unfold, how it might grow. But don't let this video, don't let me, don't let anybody ever reduce you or your infinite beingness down to just a specific set of events that are all about your second house is your money. Yes, it does represent that, and it's good to know that. And it's great to see, if we can predict these things accurately, which is wonderful. But don't let anything, any system in the world, astrology, tarot, numerology, don't let me, any other reader, whether tarot reader, astrologer, whatever, don't let anyone or anything reduce you down to those separate sort of compartments. You are a multifaceted being. And it is good for you to, so there's the dualism, bad Rafi. And you are a multifaceted being, and it's important that you allow yourself to be all of that and to grow throughout these processes that take place, right? Don't ever limit yourself to anything that anyone tells you. You always get a chance to choose. Now, before I go off on a complete tangent, I will give you some overviews. So, solar eclipse is an initiatory energy. It's a beginning of some sort, because it's kind of like a supercharged or jacked up new moon that's like, yeah! It's got lots of energy behind it. And when you get a new moon, you've got the sun and the moon together, right? That in itself is the god and the goddess coming together in creation. Now, this one is taking place in Cancer, which is really important for loads of reasons. So the whole axis of Cancer and Capricorn are going to be lit up. Cancer represents the mother, in the fourth house, protection, love, nurturing, nourishment, that place that you go to seek shelter, to seek comfort, or even lock yourself away from the harsh realities of the outside world. It's your feelings, it's your attachments, it's your bonds, right? Whereas Capricorn, and the Cancer is the natural house of the moon as well, so it's really worth keeping an eye on that. And it represents the mother, because it comes in the guise of the fourth house. Whereas Capricorn, where we've got quite a lot going on in the opposite sign, and this is where the eclipses are going to bounce between, right, is the 10th house. This is the external structure, the things out in the world, but it's also the father. It's where we meet authority, it's where we meet governance, it's where we meet the things that we appear to not be able to change. It's where, the 10th house is your career, how you show up out in the world, how you are presented or received by the wider world. So these are really big things to look at, right? And because it's the father, it's the line in the sand that you meet, where you will go no further, where you meet authority, where you get that kind of, no, you will not pass, you cannot do this. And it's not always about the negative stuff. Sometimes it's to hold you back from something or to teach you a lesson, right? So when you see that mother-father axis, that's kind of what's going on there. So it's really important to pay attention to that stuff. What I've talked about, it's a process. Good to look at where this is happening. Right, so try and stay with me on this, and I'm using myself as an example so that you can do this for yourself, right? So look at where the eclipse is taking place, and then think about where that happens according to your sun, moon, and ascendant. So my moon sign, I'll start there, is in Cancer. So this suggests that my inner world, possibly even my home, may change over the next 3 to 6 months. Something about my emotional inner world, or even my home, my dwelling, may very well change because it's happened, or the identity of my home, or something of that nature may very well change, right? As a Leo ascendant, this is happening in my 12th house. My 12th house is all to do with the past, the things that are hidden, that are private, subconscious drives and not necessarily desires and urges, but it can also be hidden enemies. It could be people that don't necessarily, present themselves as one thing, but don't necessarily mean you good. Then finally, as an Aquarius, this is happening in my 6th house, which is all to do with my work. So something to do with my old work, my old workplace, my old work life could be coming through. So those are my big three, sun, moon, and ascendant, right? It's good for you to find out where they are, because it's going to give you that kind of different dynamic of understanding, so that you get an idea of where this is happening, why, not why it's happening, you know why, because of the astrology, how it's likely to unfold, and what that could possibly mean for you. So one of the things that I've put here is it could suggest that things are about to take a big leap forward over the 6 months because of services rendered, right? So the 12th house is the past, and the 6th house is work. So it could be some efforts that I've already sown in my own personal past over the last 6 months may now start to yield results or dividends or rewards, you know, depending on what I've put out there. And I'm currently crossing fingers, toes and bits at the moment, like thinking back like, shit, have I done enough? Hopefully I have. You know, I've done my best to be of complete service to you guys in and of the world. So with that said, let's get to the personal astrology for each sign. Take care. See you in a moment. Hi Aquarius, my sun sign brothers and sisters. Welcome to your solar eclipse special. So with that said, let's crack on with it. So this solar eclipse is taking place in our 6th house, right? I am only a sun sign Aquarius, so if you're an Aquarius ascendant, this will be even more relevant for you, right? The sun and the moon to a lesser degree, but for those of you that are Aquarius ascendants, this is going to be, you know, this is more accurate for you in some way, shape or form. So with that said, your 6th house is about your health, your routines, your daily routine, what you do, how you do the work that you do, and also your service to others, right? And when you're looking at the 6th house with an eclipse, this is an initiatory energy. So it suggests that over the next 3 to 6 months, because it brings in that energy, this suggests that something about your daily routine, your work life, your health, your fitness, your diet, are you eating enough, sleeping enough, all of that sort of stuff, you will start to look at and you will start to implement changes on a daily basis. Your routine, how you look after yourself. I mean, the fact that it falls in Cancer as well, how you look after yourself, how you nourish yourself, how you care for yourself, do you protect yourself? All of those things are coming under the spotlight. All of those things are being looked at. And over the next 3 to 6 months, you're going to go through the process of creating a streamlined routine that brings you into alignment with your best and your brightest, and also enhances your entire health. Now, under this, because it is an eclipse, this could be where you start a new diet and exercise regime. For some of you, you could decide, right, that's it, I'm going vegetarian, I'm not eating meat anymore. For others, you could be deciding you're going vegan. For those of you that are vegan or vegetarian, you could be saying, right, well, I'm going to start eating fish, or I'm going to start eating meat again, or, you know, or for the first time ever. It's that kind of thing. It can bring those kind of big changes. Yeah, we'll set you up for and reset your habits so that you can set yourself up for sustained growth. The beauty of this as well is it's happening in your, you know, with the place that you would find your schedule as well. And this suggests that you're going through the process of optimizing your daily routine so that you can get the most out of yourself, so that what you do is work smart instead of hard. It's optimizing your entire life, and you're going through this over the next 3 to 6 months to really create a create a well-planned sequence rather than a stop-start of separate events. And I really love that. I'm all for that. And it's not something that I used to do a lot of, but I'm certainly over the last 3-4 years, I've become a lot more structured in the way that I do things, the way that I approach things, you know, completing things and getting, you know, ticking off lists and all of that sort of stuff. The more, and maybe it's just coming with age, who knows, hair losted, right? You know, you could be finding that over the next 3 to 6 months, this stuff becomes really important to you. Then in your opposite house, in the 12th house, because it's on the same 6-12 axis, in the sign of Capricorn, yes, sorry, I had a mind blank there. You've got Saturn, and you've also got the South Node. And this is that restrictive sort of energy, but the South Node is also about a release point. It's about what you let go. And in the 12th house, you find all of your past, this is everybody's closet, like where you keep all of your hidden stuff, the things that you sweep under the rug, the things that you don't necessarily share. It's your primal, you know, primal fears as well you find in your 12th house. And because, I mean, I don't mention Pluto because the conjunction for that is going to come. At the moment, it's currently about 5 degrees out. So although it's close, I don't technically count it as a conjunction. The conjunction will come, and trust me, we'll all fucking know about it when it does. There is a storm coming, Harry, and we best all be ready when she does. Sorry, I know everyone's like, oh my god, what's he talking about? I'm joking, kind of, mildly. But with this 12th house action that's going on with Saturn there, it does suggest that it's pulling up out of all of the roots, like, you know, right into your past, into your psyche, into your subconscious. It's going into all of that to excavate it and pull that shit out just so that you can get into it. And really, this is clearing out your closet, right? Listen, if you haven't heard it, listen to the song by Eminem, Clearing Out My Closet. You know, some of you will love it, some of you will hate it, but have a listen anyway. Fun exercise to do. Because this is going on there, I believe that Saturn, Pluto and the South Node are working in that house of Capricorn to really pull out, to weed out, to eliminate and really get rid of all of the shit that's held us back. And it will be assisting you to get to the root cause of the fears that may possibly have been holding you back. It's coming up from the depths of who you are, so it may even over the next 6 months see you reaching out to people that can help you. Counsellors, like in the 12th house is where you find you know, service asylums, so mental health, all of that sort of stuff is represented. And over the course of the next 3 to 6 months, you could be going for psychotherapy, you could be going for counselling. And this is not to cause, because there's an issue or there's something wrong with you. It's so that you can really get fucking rid of this stuff and do the South Node and release it, right? To truly let it go, to have it pulled up, ripped out, look at it, right? And say, okay, I see you, beastie. I know what you are. I name you, I shame you, and now I fucking chuck you in the bin, right? And sometimes that process of catharsis is really the best thing that you can do. It doesn't make you weak or vulnerable or whatever to go. I mean, you have to make yourself vulnerable to go to a counsellor or a psychotherapist or an analyst or anything of that nature, but it is deeply good for you because it allows you to really get to the root causes and also just get to where it is that you've tied the knots within yourself, right? And sometimes that's what it is about, where we tie a knot within ourselves and we forget to unpick that knot once the event has passed. So yeah, it's not going to be an easy process, but it will definitely, but the freedom and the liberation that it creates within you will be profound. Now, the other thing that you want to, that I really want to add in here as well is because you've got the 6th house going on there through the guise of Cancer, it adds this kind of nurturing, nourishing, protective element to it, right? It has that ability to it. And beyond that, because you've got the 12th house going on, which is also the house of spirituality, right? The intangible world, the things that are other. If you can work into and factor into your every single day life a spiritual practice of some sort. I'm not saying you have to pray or meditate for 5 hours or, you know, go on a spiritual retreat or anything like that. The retreat could be the 3 minutes that you spend in bed in the morning before you pick up your phone, before you look out the window and say to yourself, you know what, I woke up today, my faculties work, I'm grateful for the life that I have, the air in my lungs, that today when I woke up it wasn't on the street, that I went to bed with a full belly, right? To really tap into that spirit of gratitude, but also, you know, for all the things that the universe provides you or offers you, 12th house, you know, universe, spirit, all of that. And by doing that, by working into your everyday practice, that routine, the 6th house, that spirituality, you can literally see miracles take place. If you refuse to implement some form of a spiritual practice, because it is an opposition going on opposite that eclipse point, that's when you might find that things don't seem to work for you, that you seem to be inhibited, that Saturn is kind of saying, right, until you put some kind of spiritual aspect into what you do on a daily basis, until you start to look after your health, your routine, what you're eating, how you feed yourself, how you rest, all of that, I'm not going to give you a fucking break. You will continue to experience this stuff. The other thing is as well, your 6th house is your health. So because you've got Saturn there, he could give you issues with your skeleton. He could give you physical problems that manifest, things that you might have experienced in the past and then they went away. Now you can start to see why they turn up if you do this inner work, if you do this process of looking at your health habits and actually, okay, if this is manifesting in my physical self, what's the emotional or mental or even spiritual root? Which is why this process of speaking to somebody or finding a service, 12th house, that is like a counsellor or, you know, even an empath. Empaths at this time will be brilliant for you because especially people that can, you know, talk about your feelings or say, well, actually you're feeling this. People that don't, you know, they don't have to be empaths. You can find anyone in a number of fields that are in some form of service, from tarot to astrology to counselling, psychotherapy, or, you know, and everything in between. And finally, I want to mention about that 12th house. It could see somebody from your past, in your work history, coming back, and if they try to cause you any issues, don't worry about it. The chances are they will fall on their own sword because you know something that they don't, right? This will be, if somebody from your work past comes up to give you any shit, don't worry about it. They will fall on their own crap. So then you've got the Jupiter in Sagittarius squaring that Neptune in Pisces, and this is happening between your 11th and your 2nd house, right? So your 11th house there is really your groups and your social circle. This could start to change. It could see a lot more international people because it's Sagittarius. It could see people of foreign cultures, different backgrounds. It could see you aligning with people that are more spiritual, with people that are, you know, this is relevant for sure, people that are more spiritual or possibly even more religious or have a more innate understanding of spirituality than you do. This could see you really reaching out to those kind of people and finding more value in those groups, finding more value in people that are all about enhancing their lives or learning about themselves or bettering themselves. It's also the house of your aspirations, your goals and your dreams. And because it is squaring Neptune, and Neptune is there in your 2nd house, which is your Pisces, which is all about your money, what it's asking you there is, if you've got some bigger goals, they probably are going to require money from you. They're probably going to require some kind of investment. And if that's the case, just make sure that the purpose that you have for that goal in your life is aligned with something that you truly value. In that way, the finances will make themselves available. But if you want something just so you can go and, I don't know, do sex, drugs and rock and roll, it's probably not going to happen, and you probably won't be able to replenish that money, right? And not only that, you know, Saturn and the eclipse will probably give you a whole heap of shit because you're not going to be treating your body in a kind way. It's funny how all of this kind of feeds into each other. Yeah, Neptune wants you to achieve the things that help people. Jupiter wants you to dream big and dare even bigger. The balance between these two is going to be thinking outside of your comfort zone and discovering where your limits are and breaking them. This may take you a little bit further afield than you imagine, and that's it. You've got to be ready to go. Wherever this stuff is, wherever you're called, wherever it is that there is a need for you, that brings to mind a film. There's a film called The Mistress of Spices with Aishwarya Rai. I love that film. I've seen it like 1,000 times probably, and I still don't get bored of it. But it reminds me of that, actually. There's a line in that film where the woman who trains her to be a mistress of spices says to her, there is a need for you people in all of these places. So pay attention to where you feel drawn to over the next 3 to 6 months, because the chances are you could be being called to a higher purpose for the wider world stage or groups of people of some sort of nature. And the fact that it's squaring that 2nd house, you might worry, oh, you know, but I don't have the funds or the means to get there. Providing your goal is in line with what the universe wants from you, the money will make itself known. But a square happens to make you uncomfortable enough to say, right, I'm going to change this experience because I don't like the one that I'm having. It makes you consciously get off your butt and do something about it. And then finally, last but not least, you've got the Uranus in Taurus sextiling that eclipse. So that's your 4th house, which is being lit up there. Yeah, and it could see you moving spontaneously. It could be something about your home changing. It could be about you finding a way to work from home or make more money from home. Maybe start up a work-based business of some sort, because it's sextile in your your sixth house, which is all to do with your work, your daily routines. Something about the way that you live in your home is also changing, but it feels for me like there's something about your home that is shifting and changing. It could suggest as well that some of you see yourself spontaneously moving, or even finding a way to own your own home in a smaller time bracket than you were aiming for. So for those of you that are looking for mortgages and all the rest of it, over the next 3 to 6 months, this could happen for you in a really big way. It could even be gaining a property that allows you to work from home or makes you more comfortable in your living situation. It's also worth considering that your family's needs may start to take up more of your time or energy, or be more relevant for you in the days ahead because of something that takes place there. So, very interesting. Let's see what your card for the eclipse is. And this month, this eclipse, you get the Hanged Man, right? So tap into that Neptunian energy. Think about your spirituality. Find a way to weave your spirituality into your everyday life. Like I said, you don't have to shave your head every day and become a monk. You don't have to stop eating meat and renounce all, all external items and all the rest of it. It doesn't have to be that. It does have to be an acknowledgement of the spiritual aspect of human life, right? Find a way to inject that into your life and take it easy, and the rest will work itself out. And the thing with the Hangman as well, it kind of suggests that you don't really have to do much. It's almost like small tweaks on an everyday level will have much bigger results. Interesting, because Leo got a very, very similar message in the astrology, but also they got that exact same card, which I find really intriguing, because as many of you know, I am a Leo ascendant. I wish you an abundance of all of that good stuff. Take care, and I'll see you soon.